Guys, starting out your own architecture company is something that's really difficult, and it's something that's really daunting to think about when you're just working for a firm currently, but you're having ideas of opening your own studio in the future. So I wanted to take this time to talk to you guys about some of the challenges that you guys are going to face if you guys ever end up opening your own architecture firm, and also some tips that I've learned along the way in the past 4 or 5 years since I opened my own company. So, right off the bat, how do you do it, right? You're working at a firm and you're thinking of opening your own firm. What do you do? Well, the first thing that you need, obviously, is you need a company. And so, you need to have some sort of LLC or an S Corp. And these are things that you should be talking to your accountant about. Now, that's one of the first things that I advise you to do is start to understand what are the tax implications of having your own company and what are the legal responsibilities of having your own company. It's also worth looking into your firm's handbook to see if this is even allowed. You can talk to people in your firm, just be wary that they might not appreciate this kind of conversation. If you're working at a firm and you're talking about having your own company on the side, a lot of firms will hesitate to be okay with this. And as a matter of fact, moonlighting, as it's called, which is picking up work on the side, is not something that's technically illegal, but definitely frowned upon. And definitely a lot of these handbooks in firms don't even allow this to begin with. So definitely check that out in your own firm, the one that you're working at, if they even allow for you to do work on the side. Now, there's a lot of people that do this anyway, but you got to understand the reason why firms allow this is, or not allow this, is not necessarily because they want to control you. It also has legal implications for them. So if you get sued while you're working at a firm, if you're doing a little side project and you get sued while working at a firm, there's a possibility that they could go after the firm that you're working at. Now, again, this channel is not about offering any legal advice or any legal information, so it's up to you to look this stuff up. But I just wanted to put that out there that you have to be careful when you're treading in these waters. Now, that being said, if this is something that you decide to do, having as much information as possible is really important to you. Now, another tip that I want to offer you is if you are in this scenario where you've decided, I want to open up my own firm because it's my passion, it's my dream, but the current firm that you work at is not allowing you to do this, then maybe it's time to think about another firm. Maybe it's time to look for a smaller firm or a part-time position that will allow you to transition from going from an employee to a sole proprietor, which is just a fancy way of saying you're a single entity. You're a person that runs this one company, which is how you're going to start out when you end up working or opening your own firm. So really spend some time understanding this, guys. It's only going to help you in the future, and having this conversation with your accountant from the get-go is going to help you tremendously. So moving on, you've opened up your own LLC, you've opened up your own S Corp, whatever you've decided to do, you now have a company. What is the next step? Well, obviously you need clients. Now, clients is something that's kind of very scary to think about. When we're in school, we're taught that we're going to be the principal designers of every project that we work on. And then years of working professionally, we realize that's actually not true. You're not designing everything that you work on. And actually, a lot of the time spent at the beginning of your career is actually spent drafting and learning how to detail, learning how buildings are put together. So this gets really confusing because you're thinking, well, I have zero experience designing. So how the hell am I going to get a client and design a whole house for them, right? You're thinking too big. It's ambitious, definitely ambitious, but you have to remember that architecture has a lot of different phases, and you don't have to be worried about doing all of the phases yourself at once. So here's a couple tips for you. Number one is, when you start doing these little side projects for yourself, or maybe you've decided to do a part-time job so that you can focus more on building up your clientele, and you've decided to switch over to freelancing, one of the things that I'll offer you is to spend a lot of time understanding what are all the phases that revolve around architecture, or maybe you already understand this from working at the firms that you've had in the past. But basically, there's a lot of things that go into it, like rendering, for example, or site documentation. That's something that I myself spent some time freelancing doing, where it's just you go visit sites and document it for tax purposes or whatnot. It has nothing to do with architecture, but you could do things like this for other companies. A lot of times, clients need as built of their house, and so you could do jobs like this on the side, little tiny jobs that allow you to kind of grow your clientele, grow your network, right? So it's not about chasing the big jobs, the whole design from ground up. It's about spending time building up that network. I say this all the time in almost every video, how important it is to have a network. So don't think about it as, how can I get that one big client, and how am I going to deal with that one big client when I don't have that much experience? Think about it as, what little things can I do? Fresh out of school, Photoshop. Fresh out of school, a lot of design software. Perhaps there's someone that wants to design their kitchen, but they really don't understand how they want the layouts to be. So you can model all the casework, and maybe you don't have too much experience detailing casework, but that doesn't matter. You're just designing some criteria. So looking for these kind of jobs is what's going to help you get the confidence to eventually chase after bigger and bigger jobs. And not only that, this is all coming from my own experience. When you get these little jobs, they always refer you to bigger jobs. One of the smallest jobs that I've ever done, and this was actually like a few years into having my own company, is a fireplace designer. He would just design what the mantle was going to look like, and he would design what the built out was going to look like, and he needed someone that would create a very, very simple schematic of this. Now, I didn't design anything. All he needed was like a basic 11 by 17 sheet blueprint that had all the information, and it was very general, very basic information. I wouldn't charge that much for this either, but it was something that I could do in just like an hour or two. Wouldn't take me that long at all. And I was handing that over to him, and he would always give me like a week to do it, right? And I would tell him, like, I can have this done by tomorrow, just because I'm not going to get started on it today. And these are the kind of little jobs that are out there, believe it or not. And you might be looking at that and might be thinking, like, what a piece of shit that is. Like, why would you want to be doing a job like that? But again, it's about building your network, because eventually that contractor eventually got me other jobs with other buddies of his that needed bigger work. You see what I'm saying? Another time I got jobs from these flippers that were doing house flipping. So they would buy houses, and they had amazing ideas. They were really good designers, but they had no way of putting this on like paper. They had no software knowledge at all. So I would build them Revit models, very, very simple Revit models, where then we can play around with the floor plans, and then sometimes generate elevations. Depending on how big their flip was, they had more funds to be able to generate much more information, building information. So more elevations, more sections. I don't think I actually ever did renderings for them, because they had like really good ability to understand what they were designing. They just needed a more professional way to document their ideas, rather than some sketch paper. So these are the kind of jobs that you guys need to be looking at or looking for when you first get started. Doing little things like that, it boosts your knowledge tremendously. Working at a firm, it's almost like the law of diminishing returns, where like when you first start working there, you're lost, and then you start learning stuff really quickly, and then you plateau really quickly. If you're not constantly changing tasks, you're going to plateau, and then it just becomes like a day-to-day grind of doing busy work, more of the same, and then you stop learning. Whereas when you go out on your own, every project you have to learn something, and you quickly see, since you're dealing directly with these clients, you quickly see what's important to them. Whereas when you're working at a firm, you're basically seeing what's important to your project manager, and your project manager is having direct communication, sometimes, not even all the time, but with the client. And then that is kind of like being passed down to you like through a game of telephone, so not all the information makes it to you, and so it gets kind of confusing, and you get kind of lost, and you never get to really understand what the client actually wants and why decisions were made. Whereas this all changes when you're working on your own. So the really cool thing about that is that by you working all these little tiny jobs, not only are you building your network, but you're also able to understand what client needs are, what actual client needs are, and what kind of questions people have. You'll see a pattern pretty quickly, what kind of questions people have. And again, this points back to what's important to them and what the general knowledge is out there throughout all these different types of clients. So um, I basically talked about starting your own firm, right? Like from a legal point of view. And then how do you get started on clients? You might be wondering where exactly you get your clients, because I mentioned how your first clients eventually get you more clients, but it becomes like a catch-22. You know, how do you get that first client? My advice is freelancing websites, to be honest with you. I I don't want to talk about specific sites that I've used, just because I've mentioned this in the past. A lot of these sites get bad raps, and I don't want to point you down one and then, you know, you have a bad experience with them. And then you end up saying like, hey man, you really screwed me over with that site. So I'll leave that up to you guys, but just believe me, they do work. It is a bit of a hustle, but if it's important to you, I promise you, you'll succeed there. Just keep in mind that you have to read what the terms and conditions of these sites are, because you're not allowed to pull clients off of there. So don't use these websites, quote unquote, to pull clients off of, but use them to get experience and build up on your own portfolio, and let everybody know what you're up to. You know, let everybody know what kind of services you offer. Put together a website. That's actually my next step. So you have your legal firm, right? It's legal, it's well documented. You have a way of how to get your first client, right? You might not have done it yet, but you understand the process by which I explained in this video. And then what's the third next step? Well, it's time to spend, it's time to take some time to spend developing what is all your marketing, right? So your website, your logo, all this information. I personally don't really think that's too important. It is extremely important if people are trying to find you off of like Google, right? Me myself, when I look for specific contractors to work with, their social media presence is pretty important to me. I just like to see that they're posting stuff and their work is good and what other people have to say about them. I don't really care that they have, you know, a lot of followers. I just want to see like, is this a real, like, legit company? Or a legit person. I have hired people that don't have any social media, so it's not like the most important thing, but it is pretty important. A website is super important. I like to see pricing on there if possible. Like I said, I don't have a website. It goes up sometimes, it goes down sometimes. I put all that stuff on the back burner, because to me, I get my clients from other clients. So, and I've been really good about maintaining specific clients. So I'm not too concerned with that. But you know, the whole do as I say, not as I do, learn from my mistakes. If I was to go back in time and do things all over again, which I'm going to make a video on this, so stay tuned. That's definitely one of the things that I would offer you, is spend some time marketing, spend some time building up your marketing, not necessarily marketing, but build up your business cards, you know, build up your website, build up your social media presence. You don't want to spread yourself too thin with this, guys. A lot of us, we get too hung up on the small details. We'll spend weeks and months designing our logo. Guys, it's not that important. You could always, you know, build upon it. If you have the time and drive to do it, please, by all means, build the best website you can. But there's nothing worse than spending all this time building a logo and building and thinking of a company name and then building a website to then find out you actually don't want to do this to begin with, and you're way more comfortable working at the firm that you're at. See what I'm saying? So the way that I'm teaching you to do this is, how can you do it in a way that gets you running, gets you up and running as fast as possible without spending time on the stupid things, so that you're sure that you want to do this. Because as you'll see in just a moment as we get into it, I'm going to talk about some of the downsides, right? Why should you stay in a firm? And as a matter of fact, let's just jump right into it. If I've missed anything so far that you want me to cover on, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been on a roll here. This is my third day in a row talking about architecture. I've been on YouTube for over 4 years now. You know, YouTube's been on the back burner. Luckily, business is booming. So, you know, my company comes first. And then that's basically why I've been taking my time with it. But as you see, guys, I'm on a roll, doing a little bit of exercise here in the sun. And so if you guys have any questions at all, any comments, leave them down there in the comment box. And if I have time, I might even answer your questions in the form of a video tomorrow, as early as tomorrow. So let's jump into kind of what are some of the constraints that you're going to face, right? Or What are some of the things that you should be doing right now? Is being a sole proprietor, is being a business owner, even for you? I'm getting to that point where I'm already stuttering a little bit. Okay, it's not for the faint of heart, guys, but it is for everybody. Though that people who say like, oh, it's not for you, it's not for me. It's not for you, it's not for me, because you probably haven't dedicated things the way that they should be dedicated, or it's probably just not that important to you, which is cool. Dude, there's so many great architects out there that work for firms. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's a lot of benefits to working for a firm. One of the most complicated things, right, is in owning your own firm is keeping the balance between clients. You can't just get every job you see, guys. You have to be the decision maker in deciding what projects do you take and what projects do you not take. Now, at first, for your first year or two, you're not going to struggle with this because you're going to be taking everything. They're going to be small projects. You're going to finish them in a couple of weeks, and that's it. It's not going to be hard. It's going to be hard in the sense that you're probably not going to be making a ton of money, but it's going to be tough in the sense that it's not going to be tough in the sense that it's just going to be pretty straightforward. But once you start getting bigger projects, more complicated projects, more clients start reaching out to you, you're going to have to do everything. You're going to have to talk to the client, have a meeting with the client, understand what the project is about. Once you have that, you're going to need to understand what the project entails. What is the scope? You know, where's this jurisdiction? What kind of constraints are you going to face with this jurisdiction? What kind of information does this building set need to have? Are you going to need to have a site plan? What information do they want to see on the site plan? What sheet sizes are these, right? You might have to make a few calls to the building department in that zone and ask them some questions. You might stumble upon some busy people that are super rude and don't want to deal with you. You might stumble upon some people that give you incorrect information. Unfortunately, it does happen. And now you submit a set that gets a bunch of red lines and you have to fix that, but you have another deadline coming up and this client that you got the revisions for is now pissed off because he is supposed to get up and running and he needs to get his project going because he's getting charged an interest rate for all the stuff that you have on hold. And so now you're at fault. See, it's a lot of things. And while that's happening, you're also doing the other projects. So you're drafting, you're modeling, you're rendering, whatever kind of projects that you've taken up so far. On top of that, you're trying to grow your business. You don't want to stay stagnant. You got one, you got two, you got three clients. You don't want to just sit there and then wait for those clients to finish their projects and then look for more because it's too late by then. By the time your clients leave you and you realize, crap, I need to start looking for more work, it's already too late. You should have already been on that. So these are the kind of things that you're going to face that you don't on a daily basis deal with working at a firm. At a firm, guys, your struggles getting out of bed, making sure that you get dressed properly, making sure your shoes match, making sure you don't hit traffic, get to your job on time. And then you just have to sit there for like 9 or 10 hours or whatever you work. Take your lunch break, make sure you get along with everybody, and then go home. That's it. Sometimes project managers can be a pain, but that's it. That's pretty much where your job stops. When you're a business owner, you have to decide, am I going to be the type of guy that answers my phone after 4? Am I going to stop working at 2? Am I going to be one of those guys that are on the phone 24/7? These are the decisions that you're making. These are the decisions that you have to start to think about. Otherwise, it's going to catch you off guard. And then you're just going to be, shit out of luck, as they say. You're going to be way too deep in the trenches to be able to make any changes in your business easily. So what I recommend, if possible, is you're already way ahead than I was. You're watching a video talking about these problems. I never saw any of this back in the day. I still really don't see that many people talking about like the real world of architecture. There's definitely a few, but it's not like a common topic. Most people focus on school. I've tried to evolve this channel as I grow to covering as much ground as I can. And so this is step number 1, is educating yourself. Educate yourself as much as possible. Second thing that you really, really want to focus on is networking. I always say that. But part of your network, like a subdivision of networking, is partnership, right? Do you work with anybody that you get along with, that not that they're cool, that you can have a few beers with after work? I'm not talking about that kind of getting along. But like someone that you professionally get along with. Like this guy or this girl, like, they're just really good at what they do. They're probably really good at detailing, and you're really terrible at detailing. Maybe they're very organized and you're not very organized. Like, they complement you as a whole. Is this person interested in being a business partner with you? You know, a lot of us, we think that we want to do things on our own, and it's really cool. It's really cool to be able to do things on your own. It's really cool to be able to grow a business on your own. I've grown this business on my own, but I have mentors, guys. I have mentors that I use. Now, if I was to go back in time, I would have networked way more to try to get a business partner from the get-go. I mean, I've known for years already that I wanted to open up my own firm. For years. So what I would say for you guys is to focus on trying to get a business partner. Be very specific, even if it's your best friend, right? I'm not gonna get into that right now. We'll talk about that in another video. But I don't really advise picking a best friend. I advise someone that you have a professional relationship with. But say you found someone. Guys, I don't care how cool you guys are. This is actually why I say it shouldn't be a best friend. It should be someone that you're professionally in a professional relationship with. Is you want to have a contract. You want to have a contract for the in and for the out. What happens if things go sideways? How are we leaving this? Am I able to just pack up and go one day? What would cause me to pack up and go? What happens if we have some sort of dispute? So these are the kind of conversations that you want to be having with a business partner, someone that you want to go. And guys, attend networking events. I'm going to get way more into that in the future as well. But that's something that you guys want to do. So you got a business partner, let's say you got someone in mind, talk to them, tell them what your goals are, have them say their goals. We don't all have to be on the same page here. Have them tell you their goals, and then see if they align. And don't force it, guys. If this guy seems perfect or this girl seems perfect, but there's something that's not right, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Or you could always do some sort of a joint venture where they have a company, you have your own company, and you team up strategically to go after certain projects. Like I said, maybe they're good at rendering, or maybe they're good at detailing and you're not. You're more of a business savvy person. Maybe you're not a business savvy person and they are. You know, it helps to have someone that complements you. Because I personally believe that if you want to be successful in architecture, the better the team around you, better the people around you, the further you're going to go. I don't want to be a genius. I don't want to be a know-it-all. I mean, it'd be nice, I'm not going to lie, but is it realistic? No. And if you think you're a genius and a know-it-all, you literally think you know it all, then let me tell you something, buddy. I don't think people really like you, to be honest with you. So it's super important, guys, when you're starting your own business, when you're thinking of starting your own business, you know, network with people, tell people your ideas. Some people are going to hate on you. A lot of people are going to hate on you. A lot of people are going to tell you that you're crazy, that it's hard. It is hard, guys, but if it's important to you, you can make it happen. I promise you, I'm 1,000 times happier now than when I was working at any firm in the past. Not only that, I've been happier for more consistently and for longer since I've been on my own than working at firms. I just get to navigate, you know, with freedom. I'm not afraid to make certain moves. Like, you know, I feel more confident in making decisions. And if I'm wrong, I deal with it. I don't have someone pissed off at me and then someone else pissed off at me and this and that. So real quick before I get off. So continuing the conversation real quick, because I don't want to forget this point. Guys, learn as much as you can. What should you be learning? I'm going to get into this in another video. But if you're at a firm, guys, you have so many resources at your fingertips that you're not even aware of. Business contracts, detailing, you know, certain typical details and stuff like that. Information on clients. And what I mean by that is who these clients are, what are they building, why are they building, what budgets are, how much your firm is spending on projects, what the overhead cost is, all this information that when you leave, you're not going to have any of that information anymore. So with that, run with that information. Try to get as much information as you can. At my last firm, I used to talk to the owner of the company a lot, and he was very business savvy, and he would always give me a lot of insights into the company. And let me tell you something, I would meet with this guy once a month. He was super busy. He didn't care. He made time for me. His assistant would always put me in the calendar, and he would make time for me, and we would meet, and he would answer any business questions. He even gave me access one time to certain records to let me know, you know, how much was being spent on a project, etc. Just information that I don't need to have as someone that's just working on a set. You know, like who cares about that? But he saw what my intention was in growing a company one day, and he really took time to teach me as much as I could. Now, or as much as he could. Now, the thing is, when I was that young, I didn't know what kind of questions to ask. I did a good job at asking certain questions, but looking back, I didn't know the right questions to ask. And that's actually more than half the battle, guys. So keep that in mind. I'll talk about that in a future video. We'll get right into what kind of questions should you be asking and what you guys should be doing in order to grow, even if you decide that you don't want to open up your own firm, but to give yourself more power in this world, in the world of architecture. There's a lot of things that you got to know that you could be knowing right now, but you don't, because you don't know that you should know them. All right. And with that, I want to end this video. I want to offer you guys a lot of luck out there, you know, a lot of power. Go out and chase your goals, chase your dreams, whatever they may be. And good luck. Till next time. Peace out, guys.